going to open up our city council meeting for redevelopment successor agency, Calexico Financing Authority, regular meeting. This will be the portion where it's a closed session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pacheco,
Here.
Councilman Hodge, Councilmember Romero,
Here.
Councilmember Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Nothing else on the... We're going to go to closed session then?
Public comment?
Any public comments, Mr. Hart?
No, so we don't have any.
Okay, we're going to adjourn our closed session.
Mr. Hodges.
Thank you.
Mr. Hodge.
Our session at 6 o'clock, and this is only a public meeting for possible 2018 community development block grant applications. Anybody wishing to make a statement or comment on this issue? Would the county clerk please read the public comments?
This is the time for the public to address the council on item number 3 only. Residents for the record. While members of the public, Mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included in the printed agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council.
Thank you. Could you do a roll call, please?
Mayor Pacheco,
Here.
Councilmember Hodge,
Here.
Councilmember Romero,
Here.
Councilmember Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now open up this meeting for possible 2018 community development block grant applications. Anybody wishing to speak on the item may come up. Mr. Any background there, Mr.
Yeah,
Figueroa?
sure, Mayor. At this point, I'm going to introduce the item. What I do want to make sure that our community is aware of today is the fact that on November 1st of 2018, the Housing and Community Development Department of the State of California issued a notice of funding availability for the Community Development Block Grant. This is an annual grant that gets published by the State of California through HCD. The intent of the program is to provide opportunities for local municipalities to apply for funding that can help pay for economic development projects, public program services, in addition to infrastructure projects that are needed within the community. I do want to point out that the city of Calexico, for the past 4 years, was not eligible to apply for such funding. One of the things and one of the tasks that I was assigned by City Council and by the city manager was to make sure that we worked with HCD to address the matters that were preventing the city from accessing the funding of this program. With that in mind, what we did was we communicated with HCD, we shared with them the plan that we had to address all the concerns that were raised on their end. At this point right now, I am happy to share, as I've done in previous meetings, that the city of Calexico not only applied for another HCD program, but now is also eligible to apply for the CDBG grant program. So what I do want to point out is that as part of the documentation for this item, it notes that there's going to be a public hearing to take comments, recommendations from the public and city council, a formal public hearing on January 23rd. I do, for the record, want to make clear that that public hearing is going to take place on February 7th, which is the first council meeting in the month of February. The reason for the change is that HCD extended the deadline for proposals to be submitted to the end of February. That will enable us and give us the opportunity to have the public be aware an extra 2 weeks of this opportunity for them to come and present their ideas. That will also enable us to have a more concise proposal based on the feedback that we're going to be receiving. At this point right now, as it was mentioned by the mayor, the purpose that we're having this initial conversation is so we can begin to hear what you, the community members, look to get from this program that once again is going to be eligible for the city to apply for. there is a cap of $3 million that I want to be clear on that we can apply for. So based on that, Mayor, that's the introduction on the item.
May I interject?
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Figueroa,
Yes.
well, first let me address the audience. Folks, this is your voice, this is your turn to really come forward. $3 million is a lot of money, it's a good amount of money, to let us know what you want to see get done in the city under this grant. But maybe we could be, or provide some examples for the public. It's clear to me what home ownership assistance and housing rehabilitation programs mean. Public facility and public improvement projects. Could you give some examples of what that would consist of, so that
Absolutely.
they can have a clear idea?
This has to do with all the public services that our community needs. So by saying the item that you raised, Councilman Hodge, what comes to light right now, for example, is our fire station as an example. We understand that, as we've heard in the previous meetings, the city council has given direction for the fire chief and staff to move forward in the architectural planning that has to do for the efforts for the fire station here in the city of Calexico. Based on the resources that have been secured, the funds that have been secured through Measure H and other items. One of the things that we've known is that the initial cost for the fire station exceeded the amount of money that was available. So as an example to your question, Mr. Hodge, right now we're moving forward as a city on planning for a fire station that can cost what we have right now, what's tangible in terms of the monies that have been secured. What could be done is that we could add other components to the fire station to make it or bring it up to par to the expectations, not only of our firefighters and our fire department, but also about the community. For example, we have a big issue here in Imperial County when it comes to cooling centers. An option that could be considered is adding a cooling center to the existing plans for the fire station. That's to give an example. I mean, and I'm talking about public safety, which is the fire department. So everybody can imagine that there are, for example, other entities that provide a public service within the city that could benefit from this program as well.
That's okay.
Given that, is anybody willing to come up with any ideas for this community development block grant application? Any ideas on how we can spend this money?
Sorry to interject, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question for Mr. Figueroa. Is there a limit to the amount of projects that can be done with the CDBG grant?
It's limited to the activities that are allowed, and in this case, 2 activities.
2 activities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that per 2 activities per year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, City Council,
Your name, sir?
Alex Peroni, 511 Heber Avenue. I'm your neighbor. I want to commend city staff, Miguel, David, for working on bringing that grant. It's been, I guess, a few years we haven't had those monies. And one program, or a couple of programs that come to mind is, the first-time home buyer. The other cities throughout the valley, they have it, and that's where the city would assist, sometimes $25,000, sometimes $50,000, and it pays down the house, what makes them more, it makes it better for them to purchase a house, and their payment right where what they can afford. So, and there's a lot of families in Calexico that can transition from renting to buying a home. So this is a perfect program, and also, the rehab, that's another terrific program, and a lot of people really took advantage of it, making their home better, giving it more value. So, the first-time home buyer, the the rehabs are good programs. And again, I commend you guys for bringing that back. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to address the comment made by Mr. Peroni in the fact that when I started my explanation on the item, one thing is through HCD, the home program, as Mr. Peroni rightfully mentioned, is for the first-time home buyers and the home rehabilitation projects. There is actually already an application that the City of Calexico submitted in the last quarter of 2018 for $500,000 for that program. So the beauty of all this is that based on the information that we have, our chances of securing that grant are extremely high based on the number of applicants that the state got and the amount of money that's available. So we would not even have to tap into the $3 million, Mr. Peroni, because there's a good chance that we're going to get the $500,000 from the home program. So just a little follow-up on your comment.
Mr. Figueroa, to follow on that, also for the rehabilitation, would ADUs fall under that as well? Or would that be a separate entity?
No, that is something that has to, well, it technically it does because whoever is the owner of the household, or in this case the ADU, could also be using rehabilitation money to put to use to that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Cota.
Good evening, Dr. Cota. Happy New Year. I'd like to congratulate the newly elected council members and councilwoman.
Thank you.
I just would, I like to, I guess, ditto what Mr. Peroni said. I'm really happy that the city is finding funds for, badly needed funds for different items that may be needed. I just would like to see that the monies, unfortunately, I just came across, because I was at the meeting across the hall, so I wasn't aware of this meeting. So I'm not prepared as to what those monies could be used to for me to make suggestions. But the suggestion that I'm making, that I would like to make is, just make sure that the money is used wisely and where it's needed. Let's not just throw it in a basket and keep doing what was done in the past. Maybe it worked, but there may be different areas that may have needed it at the time but wasn't used. So just look, choose wisely, and I can guarantee you I'm going to do my homework, and on the next meeting that you said was going to be when?
The 7th, Ms. Cota, the 7th.
I will be here with suggestions on how to use the money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I interject, Mr. Figueroa? Would the next meeting be on January 23rd?
Yes, that is why, for the record, I made clear that the public hearing for this item is going to take place on the 7th of February.
Okay.
It's going to be advertised also 10 days prior to the
I was just asking because
meeting.
it was stated on the.
Yeah, that's why we, for the record, we just want to make that change.
Okay, okay.
You're gonna add this to the water bill, maybe? The announcement?
Good idea.
If the timeline allows, we'll look at all options.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Public meeting. Let's spend our community development block grant app. Comment? Just made it. I apologize. I thought it started at 6:30. You're good. You're good.
No, we're in another item right now. Okay. We'll 6:30 is. Yes.
Oh, okay. Something else. Okay, we're going to close this public meeting and wait a couple of minutes and then start our regular session, which starts at 6:30. So we got a 5-minute break. So smoke them if you got them. Okay, we're gonna take a break. 5 minutos. Back. Well, we're now at the section of the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Finance Authority regular session meeting, 6:30. Call to order, please.
Mayor Pacheco,
Here.
Councilmember Hodge,
Here.
Councilmember Romero,
Here.
Councilmember Arreola Fernandez. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Figueroa, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Right hand over your heart, ready, begin.
Mr. Dale, mission statement.
City of Calexico mission statement. Together.
We Please stay standing if we have Pastor Baldwin Israel Avendaño, Calexico Methodist Church. You were here early, Pastor.
I thank everybody for this special invitation. This is very important for us as families, individuals to be here this night. And before I share this time of prayer with you, just want to read a part of the scripture that is in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Says the word of God like this: I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayer, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. This statement and this activity that the Bible describes is a perfect example of what our nation has been done for 2.5 centuries about that time. Since we became independent, an independent country, we established in the beginning that God was a very important item for our laws, for our rights, and still that way. We have to still believe that God has something very special to do in our decisions, in our laws, in our ways to organize our county, our country, and we have to continue believing that God has a blessing for America, because He has done it for more than 200 years. Let us pray at this time. Father, we thank you for your presence, for the wisdom that you give us, the opportunity and chances in any of the areas we develop ourselves, we as families. And we thank you for tonight that we can gather here and we can bring our ideas, our needs, our urgencies to the table, and we can understand that we are all different. We think or in many different items that we might think are the best or are the more ideal for our county. But we understand that above all, you have a very special blessing for this county, for our families, for our neighborhoods, and we pray that you, with your Holy Spirit, cover us and guide us to do the best. Let us have your heart of serving others, of loving others, and understanding that our mission here is to share, to love, to be good like you were for us. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. Blessings for everybody.
Thank you, Pastor. We're going to have closed session announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Minute closed session. We received direction, but we have no reportable actions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve our agenda, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Announcement, Mrs.
These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexico.ca.gov the Friday following the council meeting. Mayor Pacheco will have community office hours to hear the concerns of the citizens the fourth Tuesday of the month from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at City Hall in the City Manager's Conference Room, 608 Heber Avenue, Calexico.
Thank you. Moving down to presentations, item number 4. I have some certificates to pass out. If the council could help me out here and read a couple.
Sure.
We're gonna have to go down right now.
You want to do down there?
I'm sorry. You got 2 or 3? Let's go down.
Let's go down.
Mayor, if you allow me, can I give a little background as to why we're doing this?
Of course.
On behalf of the city administration, over the course of I would say, the last quarter of 2018, there were a number of community-driven events that were spearheaded by certain staff members and volunteers. We believe that we need to acknowledge not only the department heads that helped us make this happen, but at the same time, the staff that were hands-on and made several of the events that you have been aware of through the council meetings that we've informed a reality. This is part of giving back to the community, doing community events that are different, that are unique, but most importantly, that can begin to address the lack of connection that City Hall has had with our community here in Calexico. So I do want to point out, and I personally, on behalf of City Administration, want to thank the City Council and the Mayor for taking the time to recognize the people that made these events happen.
Ronnie Luna. Congratulations, Ronnie. Sandra Tyler.
Sandra spearheaded a lot of the meetings. She was the one, all the meetings, and I would get a text, "Are you coming?" Yes, I was coming.
Thank you so much.
She did organize
Thank you.
most of the meetings.
Thank you. Denise Velasquez. Oh, okay. She's picking up for her.
I'm Cindy Alba, Executive Director for Neighborhood House.
Norma Gerardo.
Thank you very much.
We had a tree event with a lot of gifts, spearheaded by Ms. Gerardo. She organized the toys, the whole event practically, so thank you for that.
Next is Liliana Falomir.
Lily did not come. Thank you.
Ricardo Ortega.
Spearheaded the neighborhood house park organization with all the vendors.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ortega. Come on down.
Come on down.
Take the hand. Take the This individual, if it wasn't for Mr. Navarrete, we would not have had such a successful parade. He organized the route for us. He ordered and trophies for us. He selected and got a hand. Well, I got to hand it to him. He he called 2 judges out of San Diego to come down and judge our parade. These are judges out of San Diego that judge our parade. Next year, Mr. Navarrete, we're going to go with the National Association of High School Bands, okay? So Mr. Carlos Navarrete, Calexico High School Band Director. Again, thank you. He does a lot of behind the scenes, and he stays at work a long time. I've seen him, he's there after 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And when the band has football games, no llega a la casa hasta las 9. Without these guys organizing the parade and their horses, los vigilantes, Mr. Minor and company. Luis, thank you. Come on down. There's a lot to organize in a parade, and these guys knew exactly what to do. They told us what to do and how to do it. And we want to thank them for being part of our parade. Los vigilantes. Congratulations. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. Ya sabes, a la otra. This individual does a lot of the behind the scenes and makes sure that we're in code and we're not out of violation. That goes to Diego Favila, our fire chief, fire chief. Part of that committee. No vessels for you. Diego, here you go. Diego, I'm sorry.
I think it's important that I read what it actually says here on the certificate of appreciation, because it's very applicable. In grateful recognition of your service and support for outstanding assistance organizing the city of Calexico on various fronts and events. And this young lady I've known in the staff here for a long time, and I can't think of anybody that works any harder. In fact, all 3 that I'm going to mention in the names are very hardworking individuals. Lorena Minor.
Sin pago. Voluntarios. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Next, Gonzalo Herrado, Police Chief.
He walked the parade. He walked it, lo miré. Todo el desfile.
Who's got it? You got it?
He's got it. There you go, Chief.
My staff did all the work. All right, my staffs. Thank you.
And finally, we have here Martha Gomez.
Tree lighting. Come on down. A lot of good suggestions came from this committee, and out of this person too. Tree lighting and gift giving and parades. Un fuerte aplauso. These are the people that got it together. Thank you. Ortega, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For all you do.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
You'll maybe see him later.
is carried. County Supervisor, District 1.
Mr. Mayor?
Presented to Jesus
No.
Eduardo Escobar, Mayor Pro Tem, for your dedicated service as council member to the city of Calexico, December 2016 to January 2019, and Mayor Pro Tem, January 2018 to January 2019. Calexico City Council, signature, Louis Pacheco, Mayor, Bill Bosch, council member, David Romero, council member, Rosie Arreola, Hernandez, council member, on this day, January 9th, 2019. And I think you two gentlemen should come down here too and be part of this. Mr. Campos, you want to join us too? You had a lot to do with our success here with this council member. You can present it. Yeah.
Many of you may not know this, but about 3 years ago, this city was in deep trouble, deep trouble. The general fund balance was negative $3.5 million. It's supposed to be $8 million. And about 2 years ago, Mr. Escobar came onto the council, and at that time, the general fund balance was about negative 2.8 million. Now he's leaving, and I can safely say that the general fund balance has almost got to zero. We've made a lot of progress, and I think a lot of it has to do with the business and acumen of Mr. Escobar coming into the city and being a great council member, and I really appreciate you coming in. I'm gonna miss you a lot. Would you like to say? Thank you.
It was an honor to serve with you, Jesus. You're a good man, and like our city manager said, your savvy, your intelligence, your insight was very appreciative and very helpful. Thank you very much. I wish you the very best to you and your whole family.
Thank you. Just a little aside, every speaker that comes up has 3 minutes. And sometimes I forget like today, I forgot my phone. So Mr. Kovad would give me the phone and he says, okay, 3 minutes. I would forget it and he would tell me, yeah, 3 minutes. He would loan me his phone. So Jesus, just on that, I think you were on target. Your quick assessment of utilizing your math in situations that said, we can afford this, we can't afford that. What are we doing? So I think we appreciate that quick adding of that adding machine in your head, which came easy for you. Again, thank you for your commitment to the city, and best of luck as a supervisor.
Thank you.
Felicidades.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to meet Supervisor now, Escobar, a little over 2 years ago, and as I started in my political career, he helped me out a lot, gave me a lot of advice, and today it's an honor and a pleasure for me to not only call him a colleague and a supervisor, but to actually call him my friend. So I wish him nothing but the best at county, and we're definitely going to keep working with him on a lot of things here at the council, and we're definitely looking forward to that, Mr. Escobar. So congratulations again.
Congratulations on your election as supervisor. And I could say you're a great man, and hope all the best for you and your family. And we're looking forward in working with you.
Yes, we are.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I know we have a meeting, so I don't want to take too much of your time. First of all, thank you, David Dale, for those kind words. 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, with Mr. Villa's help and assistance, and the assistance of the employees of the city of Calexico, we should be very thankful of them, because they took a huge hit financially to get us to zero. Also, with the help of Mr. Pacheco, our current mayor, Councilmember Hodge, Councilmember Hurtado, and Councilmember Real, we bucked the trend and we did what he needed to do in order to move forward. So congratulations to all of you. Mr. Romero, Ms. Arreola Fernandez, all the best. I leave Calexico in good hands, and I leave, and I shouldn't say I leave because I'm not leaving Calexico. And there's a young lady that left. She just got a certificate. I was about to tease her. She told me, don't leave Calexico. I'm not leaving Calexico. I live in Calexico, and I truly love Calexico. And I will be here for Calexico. The doors are wide open. They were wide open in Calexico when I was here for criticism, and we got a lot of it. And they will continue to be open at the county level. Estoy abierto, estoy ahí para escucharlos, las buenas y las malas, para eso estamos. Si queremos estar en la política, tenemos que escuchar lo bueno y tenemos que escuchar lo malo. Y me pongo a sus órdenes. Muchas gracias y que Dios los bendiga a todos.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Felicidades.
Thank you. We're moving down now to public comments.
This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. If the item you wish to comment on is on the consent item, please comment now. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included in the printed agenda. If the item you wish to comment on is on the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when we get to the item on the agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Mr. Ben Horton?
Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, and the public at large. The reason that I'm coming up here today is for our young people of the city, especially the ones that play and utilize the parks. Thanks to Mr. Hodge and the mayor and the staff, we had a meeting last week to talk about some of the issues in the park. And we're trying to get that taken care of because for some reason, individuals thought that it was okay to utilize cannabis and to use it in the park. And then to tell the kids they were going to be used the park that they couldn't be in the park, more or less, and the parents also. But working with the staff, and especially the chief of police, we hope to put signs in the park with the right wording, with the approval of the city council to have that done, to let them know that you do not have the right to utilize cannabis or even smoke cigarettes in the park. And one of the other things is that the parks are supposed to be safe for our kids. Now, yesterday, after I had a get-together at the library, I went to the park to see how the parents are doing. Apparently, a kid tripped over some broken glass in the park. We're responsible for the safety of our kids. And I hope that by saying this, it puts more awareness on the public and especially the city council about this, what's going on in the parks. The parks are supposed to be a safe for our families to enjoy. Another point, separate from that, the McDonald's restaurant is going to have their reopening on the 22nd of February. They're rededicating themselves to this community by building a new restaurant. And I think it's great because How many businesses are turning around and rededicating themselves by building a restaurant? And it ran into the millions. And I just want to point that out. We want people to understand that. And also, it was part of the bid, too, to rededicate themselves to this community. Like Jesus says, we're all part of this community. Even if we come from El Centro or anywhere else, we're still part of this community because we work, live, and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horton.
Alex Peroni?
Honorable Mayor and Honorable City Council, sometimes we're very fast to critique either the City Council or city staff. And today I want to come before you and commend you on a lot of changes I'm beginning to see. There's more accessibility to your city manager, your assistant city manager. I had a great concern on recent water rates, and I still have concerns, but they took the time to spend an hour to explain why. So I like that, and I want to commend Mr. Hodge also, because he listened to me, and he brought it up, and him standing for the community that day. So, and you know, I'd like the city, you know, all the community needs to know things are moving in the right direction. I met with Chief Favela, and I went in the old courthouse, and I was really impressed with the work they've done. And they didn't get any contractors. You know, these are firemen doing the work. So I commend you, Chief. And I also commend Chalo. Chalo, you're doing a good job. You're keeping us safe and quiet. So those are things you need to know as mayor and city council. You know, you're doing something that's bringing positive change. Doesn't mean that you stop working. There's still a lot of stuff we need to do. And but I want to commend you, mayor and city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peroni.
Thank you, Mr. Peroni.
Leticia Cota?
Mrs. Cota has big concerns right now with the infestation of cats. You know, and I told Leti, hey, we have a lot of cats, but we don't have a lot of rats. So, you know, it's a wash. But, you know, we need to keep an eye on the cats. There is a whole bunch of them. And something else she wanted to mention is Mrs. Estrada, she takes on a lot of the recreation here in Calexico. And, you know, she has soccer, ¿tienes soccer y qué más? And baseball. And, you know, there's something about getting charged to use the park, paying insurance. I would like to also support Mrs. Estrada. You know, she comes and does a job that our recreation lacks because of time or funding. She has hundreds, maybe thousands of, you know, sportsmen there with her, and she's tending to our problems because if we have kids playing soccer, we have them playing baseball, you have them out of the streets, you don't have them doing drugs, doing gangs. So that's something when we're looking at our budget. You know, sometimes we count pennies, and right here it's counting pennies on mediocre insurance. I look at those young lives that we can help in doing sports. So look at that and, you know, support, because I remember when I was young a long time ago, recreation had a lot of programs, not anymore. And, you know, she's doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Peroni.
Ramon?
Ray Salcido from Imperial County. I normally live in Imperial, and I got stranded here in Calexico. Basically, one of my major concerns is in government administrative law is that there's no place of grievance, really, to file a complaint, especially when it regards to staying here at Best Western. I rented the place for 4 days, but apparently one of your employees took some of my effects, like computers and money, and arranged for $64,000, Mr. Legaspi, and I haven't seen my money yet, and I try to convey it through other channels, and I'm pretty sure I've never been here trying to convey it in the most eloquent way, but I feel robbed, and I feel that every conspirator is among me, and I can't seem to get the data from my alarm company that I started back in 1990. I also have a degree in electronics from California Contractor State Board, and I have a certificate from, of course, the Bush under the Skill of America back in 1985, passed it with high grades, and I have an occupation of being like the fourth line of defense, a state police officer with the powers to arrest under the alarm company operator, but I feel robbed, and I just want to tell Mr. Legaspi to come about and where's all my equipment and my customer list that I have not been able to ascertain, or it seems like there's a void that he has no responsibility. You might have a police department, but you have no policy. I appreciate it if you could tell me maybe next time I could come and do a formal complaint. For him, it was nothing because he invested no time. For me, it was a lifetime. He did it in 1 day. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Ismael Lopez?
Good evening, all. Mr. Mayor, Council. First of all, welcome to David and Rosie. You have a challenge, and I'm that challenge. No, just kidding. First of all, I see a new council. By then, in my mind, that means that we, all the citizens of Calexico, will have a new plan, and more inclined into an economic plan that will be achievable, that will be accurate, and that will be seen by all of us and receive reports of how are we doing and what else could be done to modify it, to improve it, to change it. I know you, Council, will work with city administration in developing that plan. But I want to remind you, to some of you, that you dictate policy. City administration develops plans that are approved by you and then execute them. It's not council responsible for not executing the plans. It's city administration. I know city administration has done a lot of great things, but we're still short. Throughout last year, by the way, Happy New Year to all. Throughout last year, we saw through the committee that I'm part of some plans. And throughout the year, we saw advance, but I would say 90% of them never mature. I hope that this year they do mature and they're part of that plan. And again, council, you're responsible for make them do their job. I have a couple of concerns. One of them is that Mexico is changing the laws, the enterprise laws, commerce laws, tax laws, to make the northern borders, our southern borders, more attractive to investment. And I'm wondering, what are we going to do? First of all, as a state, second as a county, third as a city. A bunch of people, if they're approved by Mexican government and state government of Baja, you're going to see a lot of people coming in, a lot of investments being developed in the city of Mexicali. What are we going to do? We have a great opportunity because we can attract some of those businesses to establish themselves here in the city of Calexico. But if we don't act, we're just going to see impasse. And it's a concern. As city administration said, we took a red and now we're balanced. Well, now let's go into the black. Let's have inflow of cash, excess of cash, so we can do things. And the other one is, and you all know, because it has been in the news a lot, the refugees. They're going to come, and they continue coming. What if they storm our border? What are we going to do? Have we developed a plan with the county, with the state, with the federal government? Because if the 6,000 they're mentioning now are coming in, they just need to run across, and then what? We don't have a plan for what I know. I might be wrong. It's a concern. It's my safety, my family's, your families as well, and yourself. I'm not saying they are bad people, but they ran out of their countries for whatever reason. And last but not least, please do not raise any fees or taxes to the city or from the city. Find ways on how to improve your operations, be cost effective, cost efficient, find other ways for those resources, monetary resources that we need. God bless you. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Julio Rosales.
Buenas tardes.
Por el motivo que vengo aquí ahora.
Perdón, ¿su nombre?
Julio Rosales.
¿Domicilio?
424 Washington Street, Calexico, California.
Thank you.
Okay. Yo vengo aquí por dos motivos. Uno de ellos, yo salí de la ciudad, trabajo en diferentes áreas y yo me fui por bastante tiempo. Me cortaron a mí el agua, ¿verdad? Me llegaron $1,167 con 26 centavos con el agua cortada. Le voy a decir algo, yo trabajo, soy campesino, trabajo en el campo y es porque yo quiero, no porque me gusta, no porque la vida me obligó a eso, a mí me gusta eso. De esos $1,167, cuando yo vine a preguntar, a mí me dijeron que los tenía que pagar a fuerzas. Mientras tanto, no iba a tener agua. Ok, di un pago, llegó un arreglo con ustedes, aquí lo tengo. El agosto 10 del 2018 pagué $300. El agosto 27 del 2018 volví a pagar otros 300. En septiembre 10 volví a pagar otros 200. ¿Ok? Y hasta la fecha no me he podido poner a corriente. Ahorita debo todavía $400 de agua. Les voy a decir algo. Y no es por ofender a nadie, ¿verdad? Todo el mundo es trabajador. ¿Quién de ustedes ha trabajado en el campo? ¿Sabe lo que es levantarse a las 2 de la mañana, llegar a tu casa todo mojado, lleno de lodo, a las 6, 7 de la tarde? Usted, gracias.
Mr. Mayor, we'll look into this.
Es bonito, ¿verdad? Lo único que yo quisiera saber, ¿qué me va a ayudar a mí con esto? Porque aquí tengo a mis papás también, que se les quemó el negocio de Santo Tomás. Dijeron que los iban a apoyar con ayuda económica, ¿verdad? Le iban a hacer unos préstamos, no lo han hecho. La verdad, yo sí tengo bastante coraje sobre eso, sí estoy muy enojado, la verdad. Porque esto de aquí, para mí, se me da más robo. Mi agua cortada, y todavía me siguen cobrando agua. A mí se me hace robo, Hatch. Yo voté por ti. ¿Me vas a hacer el paro, o me vas a hacer el favor, o cómo lo vamos a hacer aquí, la verdad? Sinceramente, ahora tengo que apoyar yo a mis papás económicamente, los tengo que ayudar porque se quedaron sin nada y todavía me llega esto de agua, no tengo que pagarme agua, tengo mi familia, no gano tanto. El dólar que me lo gano con la frente, con el sudor de mi frente yo. No les pido nada, lo único que voy a decir es que me va a ayudar con esto.
Julio, hazme un favor, si puedes llegar con el señor Dale, a ver si podemos hacer un arreglo con ustedes, y así ponemos un arreglo para que esté más o menos el pago que se puede mantener algún nivel para usted.
Claro que sí. Claro
¿Okay?
que sí.
Julio, si gustas para agendar una cita con fecha y día para poder y hora para poder tratar lo que traes a discusión el día de hoy.
Claro que sí. Claro que sí. Gracias.
Gracias, Julio.
Gracias.
Johan Desiderio.
muchos saben de, nomás two de ustedes saben de mi case. A mí me metieron a la cárcel injustamente, el Calexico PD. Me pusieron out in the news, todavía ni me juzgaban. A mi hijo lo están juzgando como si fuera adult. Le quieren dar 18 years por el error de Orozco y Acuña cuando hicieron testify under oath y echaron mentiras en mi case. Mi case hizo dismiss. Muchos de ustedes, two de ustedes saben porque él lo puso out in the media. Como dice, enlodó mi nombre, no nomás mi nombre, el apellido de mi familia. Para mí eso es una humillación, porque ahorita mi hijo, ¿quién le va a regresar ese tiempo a mi hijo que lo metió injustamente? Era un niño de 15 años when he got arrested by Orozco, Acuña. Mi hijo se presentó voluntariamente al Calexico PD sin tener nada que esconder. No, mi hijo está haciendo face attempted murder por la culpa de Orozco y Acuña.
Thank you. We'll look into this. Gracias.
Jason Jung.
Happy New Year's to everyone. You know, there's a couple of issues I wanted to bring up to you guys. Obviously, Joanne came up here and she told you what happened to her, and hopefully you guys do look into what's going on with the police department. Number two, I'm wondering how documents get misplaced in City Hall. I turned in a complaint about 2 months ago, and I barely find out today that it's missing. What a coincidence. I emailed the city manager, no response. Thank you. I have the emails I sent out. If you like, I could re-forward them to you if they got lost in the mail. The other thing is this. You know, I wish all of you guys would, when you guys are meeting with the Santo Tomas people, I wish you guys would address everything to the general public that's here. Because all these people are lost. They don't have answers. If the management from Santo Tomas doesn't tell them something, or if you guys want to have meetings, you know, it'd behoove the city to have a meeting outside, as you guys have done in the past, and kind of inform the people. Bring them on board. Let them know what's going on. You know, and I don't know who blamed the fire department for stalling everything, but you know what? It sounds like the fire department's the only people that they have on their behalf right now, or the fire chief fighting for them. You know, it's a sad day when all these people come here, when Joanne has to come over here because she was falsely accused of a crime that she didn't even commit. You know, you guys did a press release on KYMA, KYCM, whatever it is, Channel 13 I think it is, with Roy, and you guys put her picture up before she was even found guilty of the crime. You guys found her guilty before she even went to court. How sad is that? You know, I wish it happens to one of you guys, and they blame one of you guys for doing something wrong and prosecute you before you even go in front of a judge. Her kids right now are facing 18 years in jail. 18 years. I hope it doesn't happen to your kids. Because that's a sad, sad thing as a parent to have to go through. The Santo Tomas people, once again, they don't know what's going on. My complaint, you guys talk about transparency, this and this and that. Nothing's done. We have councilmen who promised the Santo Tomas people financial aid and relief. Wasn't it you, Mr. Hodge, that said we need to give them financial assistance? It's not SBA loans, is it? Because you know what? You should have been more clear when you did that. Because they looked at you for financial aid and help in their situation. Don't make promises you're not going to keep. Thank you.
Janet Miramontes.
I just have to say I've lived here all my life, and I felt safe until now.
I've had a couple of visitors with the police harassing my son. He's been choked, and nothing has been done to the person that choked him. His bike was stolen. I called the cops, and they didn't do nothing about it either. In school, the police keep on searching him when I'm not there, for many reasons. And just recently, he was stopped walking with his friend, and they forcibly got him and shook him for him to sit down in the sidewalk, and he said, "I'm going," and they didn't have no pity towards him. They got him and they choked him through the arm and made him sit down because they were accusing him of breaking into a house, which I let them go into my house so they could search whatever they wanted. They didn't find anything, but I don't feel safe no more. So, thank you.
Thank you.
John Kim?
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm glad we have a council members and living council members or past council members bragging they made a budget, in the budget is zero balance, which is not negative. It's based on pay cut from the employees, it's based on cut the safety officers, risk of the community safety. Now you hear the several cases, and they are attaching our water bill, water budget. They're spending a lot of our water money to the transporting for the cities, commingled budget. That's what they've done. That's their bragging. I'm glad we have a council member like that. Mr. Peronio was saying we have a lot of cat, but we don't have rat. Look at this. We have so much red, we don't see it.
Mr. Kim, could you address the council?
Yes, I'm moving around.
No, face us, please.
Yeah.
Us.
Okay. I'm facing here.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is another tactic. They're just trying to cut the way of the top. That's a trick from the council. It's been even a lot of times to me like this. And also, I got request from the community members to deliver this message. I'm making my public comment to give it to the Oscar Award to Councilman Bill Hatch as best actor. Not only for the Godfathers. We need to thank him for helping us raise our water rate $63 per month for 30 years for every house of the account. $90 million, the debt we have to pay, citizens have to pay in 30 years. Counting with, dividing by 4,000, coming up to $63. Next 5 years, maybe not much, but after 5 years, it's going to be hijacking, and we're not going to be able to stop it, because we owe them. The real story is that we need to thank Mr. Hatch for promising the vendors from Santo Tomas that he would be helping them with financial and special council meeting. What the mean is, he's not the God. He can bring the money to us. The real story is that campaign and told the people of Calexico that he would lower the water rates. Our water is going up. He also helped the Grand Plaza with financial assistance. Why the small business people of the Calexico are suffering with high business fees and inspection fees and losing sales. I believe everybody is going to work with me.
20 seconds, Mr. Kim.
The real story is Bill Hatch is that his character is bad and he lies a lot, that June Kim couldn't make teamwork when Jun Kim was in council. The recall signature first began August. Bill Hatch have begun from the community who are tired of lies and bad character. Next council meeting, we will be serving Bill Hatch first with his official recall papers. Many people want him to resign due to his lying and cover-ups.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Next week, we
Thank you,
might
Mr.
have
Kim.
Bill Hatch on video doing illegal things,
Mr. Kim, thank you.
like the video we saw on his former council member.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kim.
you.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, just for the record, on the second reading, I voted no on the water rates.
That's fine. But he shouldn't be isolating the talk just to you. Thank you.
Carmen Estrada?
Buenas noches, soy Carmen Estrada, directora y fundadora del programa Calexico Parents Athletic League. Esta ocasión estoy aquí al frente para darle las gracias a Jesús Escobar porque la verdad él ha estado al día en el programa Calexico Parents Athletic League Association. Yo la verdad le tengo mucho que agradecer porque es una persona pues para mí muy humilde y esas personas son las que necesitamos para que ayude a la comunidad. Él está al día, Escobar, vamos a tener esto, está ahí. Nunca ha fallado a la comunidad y pues yo quiero darte las gracias. Sé que no vas a estar aquí, pero tengo confianza que de donde estás nos vas a ayudar y tenemos mucha confianza en ti. Y muchas gracias, Escobar.
Deborah McGarry?
You just want to hear.
Sorry. I'm sorry, it's my first time where I'm on this side of the podium.
Don't get too comfortable back there, Mr. Escobar.
Thank you. You're receiving just some handouts. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Deborah McGarry. I'm a Public Affairs Manager for Southern California Gas Company, covering the desert region. As you know, SoCal Gas distributes natural gas to many residents and businesses within Calexico, allowing them an affordable, reliable, and abundant energy source to heat their homes and businesses, to cook their meals, and heat their water. It is an energy source of choice for most, and is part of a balanced energy portfolio you and your constituents enjoy. I'm here tonight to raise awareness of an ongoing issue in California which many people are unaware. California wants to electrify everything and upset this balanced energy portfolio. A proposal which did not pass legislation last year would have required all new buildings after 2022 to be all electric, and it would have required existing buildings to be retrofitted to be all electric by 2030. While this did not pass, I can assure you that similar proposals will be proposed in the future. The proposal is forced to electrify your homes are made in the names of global warming, reducing greenhouse gases and carbon emissions, and other environmental goals. These goals are commendable, but the cost-benefit analysis can't justify such drastic actions, and customers are the ones who will pay. Please think about how much you pay for electricity in the summer versus your heating bills in the winter. Now imagine what your bills would be if your homes were all electric or your businesses were all electric. Let me be clear, SoCal Gas does not oppose electrification. However, what we would like to point out is that it should be up to the customer and it should be their choice on how it is that they want to heat or use electricity or energy in their homes. I'm alerting you of this balance is threatened, and with it, the economic stability for families and businesses could be threatened too, forcing homeowners to replace their natural gas appliances. The estimated cost to replace natural gas appliances on average would be approximately $7,200 per household. And the cost of electricity could approximately be an additional $388 more a year. And that's based off of the Inland Valley. That was based on a study that was done by the Building Industry Association, so it was an outside agency. However, there is an alternative. Biogas or renewable natural gas, which comes from organic sources, is a green energy that is created by green waste, food, and ag waste. You can capture some of these gases, clean it, inject it into your pipeline, which currently goes up into the atmosphere, which is part of our greenhouse gases. If you were to take 16% of the gas that we deliver to customers that comes from a renewable source and make it renewable, use natural gas, it would have the same effect on greenhouse gas emissions as electrifying all of California, and at a lower cost, and we can achieve this goal by 2030. The point is that you shouldn't have to choose between what some decision makers believe is right and the reality of what families can afford. And with the balanced energy approach, you don't have to. If you would like further information, please feel free to contact me. I provided you my card and my information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anybody else wishing to make a comment? ¿Alguien quiere hablar sobre cualquier tema? Please.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Héctor Fernández. Sí, mi pregunta es de que hablo de parte del Santo Tomás y quiero dar una respuesta que para cuándo o no se va a abrir el Santo Tomás. ¿Tenemos esperanzas o qué es el límite de esperar que estamos esperando tanta gente para poder trabajar? ¿Me pueden contestar eso? Porque ya deben de saber ustedes qué es la situación ahorita, qué es el siguiente paso.
Lo que sé que sí ha habido varias juntas con los dueños, los abogados, nuestro personal. Están en eso, tratando de arreglar algo, pero yo voy a pasarle al Mr. Campos.
Y para contestarle, estamos ahorita en juntas con los dueños, los abogados de Santo Tomás y también la ciudad, porque hay requisitos de legal, de construcción, de habitaciones que tenemos que asegurar, no habitaciones, pero de puestos que tenemos que asegurar que esas reglas se cumplen, ¿verdad? Pero también reconociendo que sabemos que mucha gente también tiene ahí negocio, ¿verdad? Y tratando de encontrar una solución, pero al mismo tiempo hay leyes que también tenemos que comportarnos con nosotros y es la cosa difícil a veces, ¿verdad? Porque también si abrimos el San Tomás, sea mañana, y hay leyes que se están violando, si algo pasa, ¿verdad? Hay peligro legal ahí. Entonces la cosa, este es el tema que está un poco delicado, pero sabemos que hay mucho interés y sabemos que es una cosa muy importante. También como abogado reconozco eso. Entonces, pero estamos tratando de encontrar una manera que se asegure que el Santo Tomás está comportando con todas las leyes legales y al mismo tiempo tratar de encontrar una manera de que se abra lo más pronto posible para los que están allí.
Okay, gracias. Sí,
los que sacan
hay
el
más
negocio
de,
allí.
casi se puede decir más de 2,000 personas sin trabajo que el Santo Tomás tenía de empleados. Y es desesperante a veces que no nos dicen nada ni la ciudad ni el Santo Tomás. Entonces, como estoy escuchando, pero sí espero una respuesta.
Sí, estamos preparando hoy mismo y mañana. Entonces, sí, es lo que estamos trabajando para una respuesta para los dueños y también para el público.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else, please?
Sí, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Luis Romero. Soy habitante de aquí de Calexico. Tengo aproximadamente 12 años aquí en la ciudad. Pues toda mi infancia vengo de Mexicali. Tengo un detalle que vengo a apoyar a la señora Carmen de la liga. Estamos en la liga mayor de adultos para jugar fútbol. Al parecer nos quieren cobrar un costo de $100 para jugar. En mi equipo, la mayoría de mis jugadores pues estudian en el colegio, tienen 18 años y pues yo los ayudo con los uniformes, trato de motivarlos a que sigan haciendo deportes. Yo juego yo mismo, tengo 40 años y tengo un jugador de 56 años que está en mi equipo y se me hace muy difícil decirles que aparte de que tienen que pagar algunos su uniforme, tener una cuota por jugar fútbol. Se me hace injusto sacarlos de un campo de fútbol haciendo un bien sin tener nada ilegal que hacer, porque muchos de ellos podrían irse, como dicen, a tomar, a usar drogas o andar haciendo destrucción en vez de estar fomentando el deporte. Mi hijo mismo también tiene 7 años y está en la liga menor de la señora que juega en el campo por la Andrade, y se me hace injusto que pues tengo que comprarle uniforme y tengo que comprarle su equipo al niño para que pueda hacer deporte en vez de tener que pagar un fee para que la ciudad nos permita hacer deporte. Entonces estoy pues bastante desconcierto porque en ninguna parte te cobran por hacer deporte, te cobran por castigarte, por fumar, por todo, tienen impuestos, pero pagamos agua, pagamos luz para ayudar a la ciudad también, lo entiendo. Pero como dice, hay un fondo que están tratando de bajar para la ciudad. Si ocupa la ciudad dinero, en vez de cobrárselo a los jugadores de 18 años que no tienen ni trabajo, $100 para jugar fútbol, pues que sacaran una parte de ese fondo para apoyar a la ciudad si es que la ciudad necesita fondos. Y sería todo. Muchas gracias.
Sí, si se espera, tenemos el número 10. Vamos a discutir ese tema. Si se espera un ratito. Vamos a llegar a este tema en el número 10.
Pasa, por favor.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Laura Herrera. Soy vendedora de Santo Tomás Suadmit. Ya sé que es muy repetitivo, ya nos explicó el señor Carlos lo que está pasando. Nada más quiero hablar para decirles lo siguiente. Yo entiendo que hay reglas, yo entiendo que son procedimientos, pero la verdad pues es muy desesperante porque la mayoría de los compañeros que están aquí pues quieren trabajar, ¿sí? Yo también quiero trabajar, pero yo me quedé sin nada. A mí se me perdió todo y varios compañeros que estamos aquí. Entonces dices, bueno, no hay solución, no tengo nada y no veo nada claro. Entonces yo les pido, si dice él que se está trabajando y todo, pues que trabajen lo más rápido posible, por favor, para darnos una respuesta, porque por ejemplo se nos están pidiendo muchas cosas, que lonas, que se tienen que ser especiales, que eso, pienso que eso tuvo que haber sido antes, no ahora, ¿verdad? Porque ya ahorita estamos al pendiente de lo que está sucediendo, ya ahorita no se necesita eso, ahorita necesitamos trabajar, activarnos para volver a salir adelante, para apoyar a la ciudad de Calexico, que se supone que es lo que debemos de hacer todos, ¿verdad? Entonces sí les pido por favor, y también a otro es un comentario, no por echarle tierra a nadie ni mucho menos, pero si las reglas son que tienen que ser para todos, porque en Las Palmas hay cosas que no son muy normales y ahí no están poniendo ningún reglamento, entonces que a todos nos hagan por igual. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Mr. Mayor, one more.
Anybody else?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Linda Lara, tengo más de 20 años residiendo aquí en Calexico y 20 años como comerciante del Santo Tomás. Igual soy yo muy repetitivo, ¿verdad? Pero pues nos quedamos sin nada, o sea, todos perdimos esa noche, todos perdimos, unos perdieron todo, unos perdieron más, otros perdimos menos, ¿verdad? Y Santo Tomás, más que un área de trabajo, yo creo que era una reunión familiar para los domingos. Aquí en Calexico no hay un lugar para podernos reunir con nuestras familias, con nuestros hijos, con nuestros nietos. De repente ahorita le entré hoy que hay no sé cuántos millones para hacer un lugar familiar. Me gustaría que lo pudieran invertir pensando en las familias, en que como yo ya tengo aquí más de 22 años de residente, ya tuve hijos, ya tengo nietos y no hay un lugar aquí en Calexico donde reunirnos. Santo Tomás, como les digo, más que el domingo se miraba mucha gente, pero más que ventas era para que se reunieran las familias. Entonces, me gustaría a mí, en lo personal, que la decisión que tomaran la hicieran pública, no nomás al dueño, no nada más a los que nos representan, pero nosotros queremos también saber, todos los 300 locales que hay, queremos estar informados. No sé si ustedes tengan una forma mejor de decirnos cómo nos pueden informar, a todos en general. Por favor.
Gracias.
Muy bien. Yes. This is for public comment, pero hay que llenar una forma, pero sube Pelayo, sube Pelayo.
Muchas gracias por darme la oportunidad. Mi nombre es Abel Aramburo, soy residente aquí de Calexico por más de 15 años y también vengo a favor de la señora Carmen Estrada. Se nos hace un poco excesivo el pago que nos quieren hacer por $100 al día, por partido más bien, para poder jugar los equipos de la Liga de Adultos. Los campos no están en esas condiciones como para que nos estén cobrando $100. Hay la mayoría de los campos, la mayoría de la zona de juego es de pura tierra, solamente en ciertas áreas hay zacate, pero el campo que nos quieren cobrar, que nosotros utilizamos, es el Casitas, y la verdad yo tengo entendido que Santo Tomás se ocupaba de riego y mantenimiento de ese campo, no la ciudad, y desde que Santo Tomás se ha quemado no ha habido nadie que vaya a mantenerlo. Yo vivo cerca del lugar, he ido, voy frecuentemente, y desde que se quemó Santo Tomás no ha ido nadie a mantenerlo. También es un lugar, como decía la señora hace un momento, ahí en los campos nuestros equipos se reúnen y llevan a sus familias, muchos de ellos ya tienen hijos, hay personas mayores de 40, 50 años jugando en nuestra liga. Es un buen lugar y es un buen momento para volver a retomar nuestras actividades recreacionales que tristemente se han ido desapareciendo aquí en Calexico. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Si hay comentarios aparte del campo y los parques, eso va a ver el número 10, pueden hablar sobre ese tema. Okay? Once, twice, thank you. Moving on. Comments by city council members, city managers report. Mr. Romero, any comments?
No comments at the moment.
Thank you. Ms.
No comments at the moment.
Hernandez, no. Mr. Hodge?
Yes. The commissioners are still, and correct me if I'm wrong, because behind the scenes I know you're working, and I might have not gotten the latest information or developments. But the commissioners are still, in my understanding, in disarray and ineffective. When or what will it take for this administration to have the concern and willpower to effectively restore our important commissions? I have criticized this situation for a long time now and with other council members. In some cases, the commissioners are not fully staffed and or properly staffed with qualified members. The bid is barely alive, and some commissions are not fully operating. I implore the administration to take immediate action in restoring our commissions. How about starting with a factual overview of our commissions? And we've gotten this before. I am requesting that each council member receive a template that indicates the specific commissions, the names of the commissioners on those commissions, the time and days each commission meets, and any other relevant information. I understand that this request is time-consuming, but it's well needed, especially for our new council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
I will add on, Mr. Hodge, I did receive that from, I want to thank Norma for emailing me that information on when they meet.
You got that.
So we're working on it.
I was really shocked to see in the paper that one of our ambulances was taken from the hospital. And I know it happens. It was just one of those things. And the chief says that they located the ambulance within half an hour. So it wasn't a mad search for that. They went online and somebody saw it somewhere, and before you could do it, chief was there, and we had our ambulance. It was just I can't fathom somebody going into a hospital, getting inside an ambulance, and taking off in the ambulance. Eso no es creíble. I can't believe that somebody would do that. Pero sucedió, and we're finding ways, and we're going to add some type of protection to make sure that we secure our ambulances. I know we need to have them running, so Chief is positive and thinking of an inexpensive way of keeping the ambulances running with some type of equipment that'll allow it to be locked. But that was a surprising article. Other than that, I don't have that, but we were lucky to get it back. I don't know who would want an ambulance. Okay, Mr. Dale, any?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, if you would allow, I'd like to also touch again, I just was mentioning about the general fund status and how we're getting better on our general fund. In the city, we need a reserve, about 6 months, and that translates to about $8 million. Made a lot of progress, and how we make that progress is we make sacrifices. The employees make sacrifices, and also we make sacrifices in not hiring as we need. And right now we are down on staff. We've mentioned that many times, but we have accomplished a lot in this past calendar year. And if you allow me, I'll just go really quick on some of the capital projects that we accomplished last year, even with the reduced staffing levels. And I'd just like to go over some of these. The water treatment plant upgrades, the filter upgrades is $1.5 million. That was completed. The water treatment plant generators, $1.4 million was completed. We got 15 new vehicles for Public Works. We had two street projects. The first project was completed at $3 million. The second project we're still working on, and that's $4 million. We're almost complete with that. The reason why it stopped was because of the weather. We did our water system master plan, $123,000. We completed manhole replacement project for $100,000. We completed a bicycle master plan for $70,000. We did wastewater treatment plant facility master plan, $125,000. Fifth Street water pipeline grant street project, $1.2 million. Water meter project completed, and that was already ongoing for years, but we were able to complete that. We had spent another $200,000 to complete that. Cortez Park improvements, that happened last year, and we were ribbon cutting, if you recall that. We also did a ribbon cutting for Cordova Park Playground, and that was $500,000. We completed our service area plan, and that was $70,000. The new River Parkway project, that's going to be this year, and that's completed, ready to go. That's going to be $2 million. That's this year. We completed through to GSA. We did a new sewer lift station near the California markets. That was about $800,000. We started not through us, but through ICTC, our bus intermodal transportation center, which will be located downtown, and we're looking forward to that to be constructed within the next 2 to 3 years. That's going to be a huge boon for the city.
That's the hub.
That's going to be the hub downtown near 3rd Street. A bunch of things. I don't want to go through all these things, but a lot of things happen. A lot of good things are happening in the city. Yes, I will be the first to admit that we are not where we want to be at all. We want to do a fee study, because our business license, we have issues with our business license fees. We have issues with other fees that we're charging that may be too high. We want to do a rate study this year. That's in our plans. We need to get better, as was stated earlier, on how we handle complaints. We need to put together a protocol on how we do complaints, and we're going to implement that very soon. In fact, next week. We still are planning to do a presentation on the restricted funds that was requested by some public. We just have not been able to get that because we've been doing end of year in the finance department. So we do plan on making a presentation on what money we have in the accounts and where that money is and what restrictions are there. We need to get better on our parks. We know all this stuff. A lot of this stuff is general fund issues, and we have to make sacrifices, because if we have a negative general fund balance, we don't have a city. We won't be able to move forward. Susan Mayer, our financial consultant, has stated, when I started here, we may have to close the doors. And no, we're not. We're going to make it. We're going to find a way. When we started, it was $700,000 a deficit, and we had 4 months to make it up. And somehow at the end of that fiscal year last year in July, we were able to make that up. And in fact, we were a little bit in the positive. And so a lot of good things are happening in the city. A lot of bad things are happening. We're trying to address everything. And I will again state, yes, we need to get better. We are working on it every day.
Thank you. No comments? A lot of projects, a lot of good work, you can see where the streets are being repaired, and it looks good, and those manholes mean a lot to get all those repairs. Moving on to the consent agenda, could I have
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6, 7, 8, and 9.
there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Pass. Thank you. Potential action items. Establish seasonal fees for the use of city parks and adult leagues. Item 10. Ahora sí, unos comentarios
Mayor.
sobre este tema. Los parques.
Mayor, I
Para
have
que
two
los-
speakers.
Okay. Anybody? We're ready for-
The item's going to be presented, Mayor.
Would you like to
Are we
present
gonna do the item first,
presentation?
or we're gonna let them,
It's up to you.
Mr. Campos, what do you?
Maybe have a staff presentation, because that
Okay.
may answer some of the questions from some
right.
of the speakers. So.
Está bien. Well, then we'll hear from Mr.
Ms. Teller.
Ms. Teller. Long time no see.
Good evening, my name is Sandra Toller, I'm the Community Services Director. So I want to explain to you that the way that the parks are managed is that we do not charge for the use of the parks for children's activities. They've always been free. And we do the best that we can to share, to coordinate, and to negotiate with all of the teams, because we have a much greater demand than we have a supply. So we work really hard with all of the leagues, including Mrs. Estrada and Mr. Iñiguez and Little League and everybody you can think of. So there is absolutely no charge for children's activities. So traditionally for adults, we only have park fees that are rental fees. That's all we have. There is no other fee in our fee schedule. So for using a park, whether you're having a birthday party or a baseball game for adults, it's $50 for 4 hours plus $50 for the use of lights. So that's where that $100 comes from, that you keep hearing that we charge $100. We do charge $100. So in conversations, in this particular case with the Calexico Parent Athletic Association, it was determined that yes, the fee is very high if you're going to use the field 4 or 5 times a week, because then it would be $500 a week. So we looked around, we checked to come up with a recommendation that would be fair, that would still have adults paying for their activities, but that would not be $100 a day. So before you have our recommendation. So right now, let's say if you use the park 10 times, you would pay $1,000 if you had lights. Without lights, with lights, 10 times with lights, but I'm confusing
$1,000
myself.
without lights,
Okay.
1,000 with.
Mr. Escobar?
The use of the field would be $1,000, all right? And then if you had lights, it would be an additional $1,000. So it would be $2,000. So what we are recommending is to establish a league fee. And the league fee would be much lower. So for twice a week, for a 10-week period, we would charge $265. So you see the difference between charging $100 a day or charging $265 for twice a week for 10 weeks. So if you're running a league and you want to use 15 weeks, then you would have to pay twice, right? 2 segments of 10 weeks each. If you want to run a 30-week league, then you would pay 3 times, 265, right? Or if you want to use the park 4 days a week, then you would still have to pay 2 league fees, because it would be 2 2 days for one and 2 days for the other. Am I clear? So that is our recommendation, that we establish league fees so that it's more affordable for adult leagues to run their leagues and not be paying the individual park rental fee. That is the only fee that we have on our books. Clear?
Yeah, a little steep to rent the park.
It's very steep to rent when you want to do it on an ongoing basis. Now,
Normally,
We-
$100 is not high. It's actually
It's
$50. It's $50 for the park, and if you want the lights, another 50.
and normally, in the past, in my experience, I've been in charge of parks for a little while now, is we have games by adults, by 1 game, 2 games, maybe during the Thanksgiving weekend, they might have a little combination of 2 days, so it's $200. You know, it's not excessive. But when you have somebody who wants to run a league for 15 weeks, then it becomes excessive. So our recommendation is that you adopt the fees that we're recommending for leagues so that it's more affordable. They can continue to participate. They will have to get into the lineup with everybody else, and we are going to serve the children first. But when there's a space, then it would be much more affordable.
And did you base this on the Calexico Union School District?
Yes, and so, because we cannot do a fee study to do everything that would be required, we looked around and we thought, well, Calexico Unified School District already has this fee, the $265 for, so we modeled it after that, so that we would be on par, so that we would be charging about the same thing. That's how the recommendation came about.
Make it even, and
Yes, so that you wouldn't say, well, the school district charges more, or the school district charges less. So that we would be even.
To be clear, the recommended fees are the use of the field for up to 2 times per week for 10 weeks is $250. The use of the lights is $400. A maintenance fee of $175, which is a total of $825 for 10 weeks, 2 times per week. Is that correct?
Yes,
For 10
as
weeks.
opposed to 2,000.
That's quite a reduction.
Yes, and so we are trying to be as helpful as we can, realizing that the parks do need maintenance and the income is, the revenue is needed, but we also don't want to be excessive in limiting in their ability to use it because of the fee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and with lights, it's $825 for 2 days, 10 weeks.
No.
260,
10 weeks,
Twice a week.
con luces, $825.
He's in luces, 425.
Yes.
All right.
Comentarios? Thank you.
John Kim?
Mr. Kim?
Okay, when I was council, we never charged the people from the fees of using the field. This field belongs to community. They have the right to use. We don't supposed to be served. Nighttime, safety reason, most of the park is just lights on. Why we have to charge it? Why we have to charge it? We still they using or not? We still maintaining the parks and the light. I don't see it. I don't see them reason to charge them. Well, that's why we never against it. We try to provide the parks as possible to convenience for them. That's what we've been doing it. And this is the way to try to bragging for the balance the budget, for the squeezing the community. The best of our children's education is sport. The best of our children, they can learn through the sport a lot, and preventing the kids criminal case too. But they have things to do.
Yeah, Mr. Kim, we don't charge kids.
Okay?
We're gonna charge adults.
Of course, adults.
The kids are free.
Of course, adults.
Okay? The kids are
Adults,
free.
they have things to the sports instead of going to bars, instead of going to something else.
Excuse me, Mr. Kim, I have a question.
We're supposed to have adults showing the kids to what they have to do it. And We've been providing for the community, its parks, we're providing for community service. Why we have to charge them?
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Please, if you want to breaking for the community, we balance the budget, don't charge them, we never charge them. And the nighttime, the lights still on. They fix it anyways, they clean again anyways. I see myself after they finish the game, they distantly they pick up the trash. What's going on here?
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
Leticia Cota. Carmen Estrada.
Buenas noches, soy Carmen Estrada, soy directora del programa Calexico Parents Association. Duré 5 años de voluntario en el distrito escolar. Duré 10 años en el departamento de policía representando el Calexico Parents Athletic League. Fue el PAL más grande del estado de California. Lo cerraron, ese programa, porque la ciudad no apoyó, y qué vergüenza que lo hayan cerrado, porque era un programa que era para la comunidad, para los niños de escasos recursos y no escasos, y aunque tuvieran la economía, estaban ahí. Eran 3,700 niños hace 10 años de todos los deportes, era todo un éxito. Se cierra, ¿por qué? Porque la ciudad de Calexico no lo quiso apoyar, y yo les puedo comprar con papeles y todo. Qué vergüenza que hayan cerrado ese programa que era tan importante, y no es mentira. Duré 10 años como voluntaria. Ahora hice este programa con el apoyo de mi esposo, con $20,000 que pusimos para pagar aseguranza, uniformes y llevar a cabo otra vez este programa. Y me da tanta tristeza a mí, créanme que tengo aquí un dolor en el alma, porque los campos que nosotros estamos pidiendo fueron campos que estaban abandonados, no tenían, no se podía entrar, había perros muertos, carretas, todo feo. Yo me iba y mi esposo hace 5 años aquí a la Quinta y Andrade a prender la agua, echar cal para que se saliera el salitre. Ya que llevamos a cabo eso, pusimos 125 árboles en en todos los campos, que ahorita ya están grandes. Eso nos lo regaló la comunidad, $50 costó cada árbol, y el departamento de policía nos regaló 20 árboles de eso. A lo que voy es que nosotros trabajamos en los campos para que estuvieran bien, para poder jugar, porque no había, y a mí se me hace una burla esto. Y lo siento, y discúlpenme que hable de esta manera, porque a mí en personal me costó estar ahí regando las plantas a baldazo. Después conseguí 8 mangueras a manguerazo, hasta que un city manager pasó y me vio, el que salió, y fue el que me ayudó a poner el goteo a cada uno de los árboles. Fue cuando dejé yo de regar esos árboles. Las luces es un proyecto mío. Y lo digo mío con mucho gusto, porque yo fui al IID a pedir esa ayuda. A los 3 días me dicen sí, venimos a la ciudad para que nos dieran permiso. Me tuve que venir con la gente, la unión, y vámonos. Se hizo ese proyecto en un año, un proyecto de 300 y tantos mil dólares. Ahora traemos un proyecto de $40,000, que son los baños. ¿Cómo quisiera tener el tiempo para decirles que estoy decepcionada? Estoy decepcionada porque nosotros como liga hicimos esos lugares, yo los adopté, no son para nosotros, son para todos los deportes. Ok, es para los niños, se da opción para los niños, pero los niños terminan de jugar a las 8:30, es cuando los jóvenes entran a jugar. Pero aquí hay una política, y yo se las puedo decir, no la puedo decir al aire, pero traigo muchas cosas, las que ya no las puedo cargar. Es una vergüenza, señores. Por favor, señor Pacheco, haga una investigación de lo que yo digo. Es verídico lo que yo digo. Hay que trabajar con la comunidad. Yo ya no me paraba aquí. Yo estaba decepcionada de aquí, del concilio. Pero hasta ahora que el señor Escobar, me di cuenta que él estaba escuchando y está atento ahí, es cuando yo regreso otra vez aquí. Yo estoy para la comunidad, para los niños, para la juventud y para la humildad. Este es mi hobby. Creo que 25 años Es mucha experiencia la que hay aquí. Muchas gracias y ojalá tomen en cuenta. Nosotros no tenemos $825 para pagar. Yo nada más pagué 2 días, que son $200 que fueron de mi dinero. Los jóvenes dieron $10 cada quien, que juntamos $2,000, el que tuvo y el que no. La aseguranza nos costó $2,800. Nos faltaban 800 y tantos dólares y los acabamos a como pudimos con la gente que nos confía. Y la verdad, no podemos pagar y tampoco no podemos parar esto. Por favor, les pido apoyo. No es justo esto, porque los parques nosotros los hicimos para que estuvieran activos y ahora vamos a cobrar. Qué vergüenza, la verdad. Gracias.
Well, we need to address the fee structure, even though they cannot at this time afford it. Maybe we might need to talk to our city rec department and Jamie Chu and maybe come up with an alternate plan. If this is not feasible, maybe we can do something with our own leagues and sponsor our own men's league and have teams, and the teams get there and they pay the refs and they pay el árbitro. ¿Cuántos son? Son $10, pues dame $1. Give me $1, give me $1. Ahí está para el referee. Okay, ahí está. If it needs to come down to that, and if we need to, if they can't afford it, start our own league with the city, and maybe we can afford to look for donations to start something on our own. It's just a plan, a thought of mine, because if we can do it from our perspective and take them out of the equation so they don't pay and they can join our league and they don't need to be paying up front these fees. Just a concern.
Just to let you know, the recommendation was developed with Jamie and
Which is
in
good.
coordination with
Yeah.
her.
I'll need to
And
speak, yeah.
The other thing is that our sports programs are not free either, so there would probably be a fee.
A fee. Mhm.
So
because
we
That's
can
good.
continue to discuss
So we
it,
can
but-
discuss this,
But I
but-
do recommend that if you, once you establish a fee, it's for everyone, so you can consider that.
Yep.
Because we need to be even-handed.
Straight across the board with the school
So if there's multiple
district.
leagues, that's all I
That's true.
recommend, is whatever you decide.
I just want to have a recommendation here. I would recommend that each player get $5 when they charge the fees of $60, $70, whatever they charge for the plane to play out there. I would recommend that $5 going to the kitty, that she should give the roster to the recreation department and know how many players and just pay that off. And then you worry about the lights. Go out there right now, they're all on. They stay on every night. And you guys worry about the lights? How? Nobody turns it off. I go there every night. I drive by Andrade every night. It's a shame, but that's what I would recommend. $5 for every player. Is that okay? ¿Está bien contigo? $5 por cada jugador.
It's something to chew on, and we're going to look at this, Morris. It's not, but we need to come up with, establish a fee for now and then look into other options.
All right.
Thank you. Let's address this issue, establish seasonal fees to the use of city parks
Mayor.
for adult leagues.
There's another,
Mayor?
she wants to come up again.
She's already
Mrs.
spoken.
Estrada wishes to speak again.
She's already spoken.
First minute.
Señor Pacheco, hace 10 años pasó lo que usted dice. Cerraron el programa precisamente para eso, para que Recreación tomara eso y le hiciera la liga de todos los deportes, el cual cuando yo registré al programa Calexico Parents Athletic Association, no me dejaron, ya viniendo con aseguranza, ya siendo no lucrativo y todo, a mí no me permitió la ciudad entrar a los campos porque ellos lo iban a hacer, lo que usted está proponiendo. Se abrieron las inscripciones, nadie se inscribió, no más de 3 niños. La gente mía confía en nosotros, venimos todos y ya nos dieron luz verde de que entráramos porque ya teníamos todo listo. Nosotros lo único que queremos es que ustedes consideren que nosotros hicimos lo del parque para que pudieran jugar todas las ligas, no nomás nosotros. Eso es lo único que quiero que tomen en cuenta. Nosotros ya metimos $500,000 y se los puedo comprobar a los lugares que adaptamos. 300 y tantos mil dólares en las luces. El cerco de Daniel Gutiérrez nos costó casi $8,000. Tengo los papeles también. El cerco, casi había muchos accidentes, querer atropellar a niños y todo. Veníamos aquí, pues no hay dinero, y fuimos nosotros como organización los que pusimos el cerco. Y continuamos allá en el otro parque. Todos los campos esos, 4 campos los adoptamos, y aunque nosotros no hayamos adoptado los campos, en todos los campos pusimos árboles, 125 árboles. Eso es lo único que yo quiero que ustedes tomen en cuenta. Abónense por esa temporada, esa cantidad, abónensela, y ya la otra trabajaremos nosotros para ver cómo les pagamos ese dinero a ustedes en la temporada que viene. Dónennos esta temporada. Con la gente que yo tengo en el condado, fui a pedirles el apoyo. En todo me apoyan, menos venir a pagarle a la ciudad por usar los campos. Me dio tristeza y ni modo, lo respeté. Y yo le pido de favor que tome en cuenta lo que estamos hablando. Nosotros hicimos los campos para que jugaran todos los deportes. Los niños juegan hasta las 8:30, terminan, los adultos empiezan, y en los adultos tenemos niños de 18 años. Entonces, es algo impresionante la liga. Vayan a los campos y vean. Nosotros no estamos haciendo un negocio. Ustedes lo que va a pasar, que van a pagar empleados para hacer eso. Entonces, eso que dice usted, lo quisieron hacer 10 años, no funcionó. Si lo pueden hacer, pues qué bueno, pero no nos quiten, no nos pongan barrera, porque sí hay política aquí. Y yo le puedo decir personalmente cuál fue la política, porque cerraron un programa tan importante. Ahora vayan al estado de California a ver si lo pueden abrir. Nunca lo van a abrir, porque cerraron un programa sin justificación, nomás política. Eso fue. Gracias.
Gracias. We need a motion now to accept the fees for city parks and adult leagues. Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Is there acceptance? Second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mine is no, because I don't think we're ready to. I think we have to look at other options, and even, I know hard work has been put into this, but I have to admit that Mr. Kim had some very good arguments. So I say no at this time.
Okay. 3-1 carries. We're looking at other options, Mr. Hodge.
I know.
This
Yes, for
is not
sure.
going to be the end all to all. Vamos a buscar manera, okay? We're going to look. It's not a dead issue. Vamos a buscar.
We just don't want to stop the kids.
That's
We
right.
don't
We
want
don't
to stop
wanna
the young adults, just
I
simply
understand.
stop playing. That's it.
That's it. Item 11. Resolution. Waive further reading and adopt city council resolution to establish cannabis business tax rates. Mr. Figueroa.
Yes, as I informed the council at the last meeting, this is something that we need to bring for your attention and consideration, given that in the month of November, the voters here in Calexico passed Measure K with 74% of the votes, which creates the opportunity to tax all cannabis-related activities in the city of Calexico. What you have here in front of you is specifically the tax schedule that will be used on what is considered the cultivation, the manufacturing, and the retail. It was very important that we included the retail since it is now an authorized commercial activity in the city. One of the things that I do want to point out is that the figures that are being brought to your consideration are based on market values right now in the state of California.
Comparable.
Exactly. And in addition to that, in your report, you see that there's a comparison in terms of how much it's being charged in other areas near Calexico. So it is competitive, and at the same time, We feel it's a win-win. We don't strangle the industry, and at the same time, the city is compensated in a fair fashion.
So we're gonna charge for gross receipts, $16 per square foot,
Mm-hmm.
and for gross receipts for retail, 10%.
And
This is comparable throughout the valley.
Yes, and I want to commend our city attorney and Ms. Jill Tremblay, who is part of also of BBK, for their assistance and collaboration in this matter.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hodge.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this. I think that this is based on whatever limited or investigative powers they had to analyze the situation. I think that this is a fair assessment and reasonable.
Yes.
Compared to other cities, from what I've seen in studies, I think we're in a perfect place. And from hearing from people that are actually involved in the industry already, you know, and having the pleasure of talking to them in person, they've said this is a very, very attractive rate to actually, you know, induce more people who are part of this industry to actually do business like this with us in the city of Calexico.
I
So
concur.
in that, I second the motion.
Okay.
All those in favor of accepting the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 4-0. Item 12. We need to address the issue of filling the vacancy for city council, either by appointment or by calling for an election. Item 12. Did Mr.
Mr. Mayor.
Correct.
there's a
I have a
comment?
quick staff
There's a
report.
public comment?
Yeah.
Let me, I'll introduce the item, that way folks know what's being discussed. As everyone know, previous Mayor Pro Tem Escobar was elected to the County Board of Supervisors, and as such, he submitted his resignation for the City Council earlier this month, effective January 3rd. Under the Government Code Section 36512, the City Council now has the obligation to either, one, appoint someone to fill the vacancy of Mr. Escobar, which would run to up until November of 2020, or call a special election to fill that vacancy. You have 60 days to make that determination, and as such, we want to bring this item before you to get direction whether council wanted to go down the appointment route or call a special election. I'm not sure.
I don't think we can afford an election right now, tell you the
Yes,
truth.
I know.
It's like
What
$25,000.
would
yes.
what would election cost? Do you have any idea?
I know we're inquiring at the county. I'm not sure if we have a number.
Excuse me?
Approximately 30,000, that's
Okay,
what the city
yes,
clerk was
this-
mentioning.
Correct. The city clerk inquired with the county voter registers. We knew that question when it comes up. I understand they were estimating somewhere around 30,000. And even for a special election, that would not be held until November of 2019. So the seat would remain vacant up until November, and then the special election would just be for a one-year term to finish the term of Mr. Escobar.
Well,
That's too long to wait. We need to fill this.
expedite
Right.
the process, yes. I don't think we need to wait so long.
We have comments, I believe, on this.
I think if we give the individuals an opportunity to submit the letter and go with the appointment, we'll allow people to provide some paperwork, and then we do an ad hoc committee and look at the individuals that have
Yes.
applied and vet the ones that we think are going to be good candidates, and we make a decision. So, is a time frame of 7 days?
That's reasonable.
From today to next week, Friday, I don't know.
We do have some comment cards, so might be a good time to have the folks comment.
Mr.
Because
Kim?
I think that having an election is just out the door. We can't afford it.
No.
Any comments, Ms.?
Mr. Kim?
Actually, I wasn't gonna talk about these issues, but Mr. Hodge spoke with the newspaper. They encouraged me to be here today. And I've been pushing by my supporters to come today to claim I have a right to be appointed. So I understand we still have to, I understand council still can appoint someone else. They have a right. And, but I want to see they make the decision right over the people's vote, if they want to do it. So I have to put my name on it to do my duties. And also, if the people doesn't accept the appoint by the council, people can request it to special elections. Thank you.
No more public comment?
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? No.
Motion for
We
filling
need
the.
to I think
Oh.
we need to decide what we want to do. We're not going to call for an election. It's just too expensive, even though the comment was made we're going to have an election.
Right.
There's no way that we can afford that.
So,
So we're going to go by.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion, if you don't mind,
Fine.
that we go the route of appointment because of our tight budget, and we need to be frugal at this particular time. And it will expedite having the fifth member here so that we can have a true majority.
I second.
All those in favor of approving an appointment for this vacant seat, say aye.
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 Carried.
Then, Mr., if we could get direction on the process for the appointment.
That's what I would like to
that
know.
would be
Are
the
you going to
second step.
have
So
an
that way
ad hoc
we're clear.
committee?
That's a good option. I hadn't thought about that, but. You
Ad
could-
hoc.
You could, I think, Mr. Mayor, you talked about having a sort of a submittal period.
A 7-day period of people submitting their applications, and then we close it, and then we look at the applications and look at each candidate.
And the subcommittee obviously would have to be 2 members of the city council.
Well, I like your idea, Mr. Mayor, about the ad hoc or subcommittee. That sort of takes care of the problem where I was feeling uncomfortable that I thought we were going to have to decide in a raw way in public, and the ad hoc committee will be that step that will
Be the
take care
process.
of that issue.
Mr. Campos, do you need anything else?
Let me get to some dates, maybe some ideas of how soon can we publish this, maybe?
Mr.
City
Dale, how
Clerk?
soon can we get it out and have like a 7-day period?
Monday.
Monday or Tuesday?
So you put it in Monday and Tuesday?
The 14th?
To what?
14th through the,
7 days.
Hoping by
Is that Monday?
February?
14th through the 18th, that week? Give them a week to submit?
City clerk said 7 days.
It's up to your discretion.
How will we notify the public that we're doing this? Is there going to be,
I think the city clerk would publish it where you normally, city website, I imagine, the newspaper, on the doors, all the,
for Monday? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I concur that 7 days is very reasonable.
so from the 14th until the 21st?
So you're going to close it? What day will you
14th
be
to
closing it?
21st, we're going to close it on the 21st and look at the application.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock. Close will be 5 o'clock. 5 p.m.
I will check with Ivy Press to make sure that they can advertise on Monday.
Okay, great. And then we would need, for an ad hoc direction on who would be in that ad hoc subcommittee. And then we would have to agendize, obviously, at a future, the next.
I would like to actually nominate myself to be on that subcommittee due to the fact that, you know, we're the newly elected members, and obviously working with somebody would, you know, to start off, if that would be okay with the
Yeah.
remainder of the council.
Well, I volunteer also, if that's possible.
You can only have 2?
Only 2.
You can only have 2?
But you
Only
can-
2.
Only
For
have 2?
because of brown hats.
Only 2?
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, so direction.
Direction is that we'll have an ad hoc committee to look over the applications and then have a meeting prior to the council and then make
Yeah,
a
we-
selection at an open council.
Well, we would have to, yeah, correct. For the appointment, we'd have to agendize it
Exactly.
at a city council meeting.
So would your ad hoc committee select the top 3, or how would, is that what you want?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, the top 3, and then we get together as a council
And discuss them.
and discuss.
The ad hoc is who, the mayor, a council member, and,
Well, I think Mr. Romero and Mr. Hodge wanted to be on the ad hoc committee.
Yes.
Okay. Dates?
In terms
14th,
of
21st?
potentially bringing, well, I guess once we get the applications, those will be routed to the ad hoc subcommittee, they'll meet, and then based upon that, we'll either try to, we can either do it at the regular schedule meeting or call a special meeting as well.
Okay.
Is there any,
Let's see how the process goes.
Okay.
If we can do it in a regular council meeting.
that
we
would
can
be
do
the,
it.
yeah, would be the I guess what would be
Yeah.
the preference, a
It'd
regular.
be most ideal.
Okay, so the idea would be
Yeah,
to have bring it back at a regular meeting.
thank you. And
So you've, okay, 1421, okay, I'm just thinking the dates. So more than likely, I'm thinking potentially then it might be February 6th.
For what,
Unless,
sir?
to bring the item back, that would, to give
Okay.
the subcommittee,
that'll expedite the process, I think.
potentially. But we'll reserve that to the subcommittee to see what day works
Yes.
best. Okay.
Okay,
That's all we need.
Direction given?
Correct, direction given.
thank
Yeah.
you. Moving on to item number 13. We're going to waive full reading on the issues of an ordinance for the City Council of Calexico, California, repealing and readopting Chapter 5.60 of the Municipal Code for junk dealers and recyclers, approving, waive the full reading and read ordinance by title only.
Yeah.
Mr. Dale?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. City of El Centro recently passed a very similar version of this, and so in our spirit of cooperation, and also the fact that if we don't pass this, then some of the people will come, instead of selling it there, they will sell it here. And the intention of this is to try to prevent the copper thefts, the air conditioning thefts, those kind of material theft that cost the property owners so much, but these people get so little back in return just because they're bringing copper and so forth. So
We can speak as a city where our vacant storefronts have been
right.
vandalized and everything pulled out of the
So
wiring.
this should help in that regard.
Okay, any comments from
I,
board members? Accept this?
no, I think that would be probably the most ideal thing, just so that we don't start getting all that, I don't want to say like leftovers, but
Yeah.
we don't want to be hit with that collateral damage where, the people try to find a way to, buy out, sell out their scrap metal, and, because that can also lead to legal action probably in the future if any wrongdoing is being done, so.
Correct.
Yes, that's true. I think it'll make it more difficult for the individual. Is there a motion to accept this ordinance?
I'll make the
accept.
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Carried
if you allow me to
4.
read the title, Ordinance City Council of Calexico, California, repealing and readopting Chapter 5.60 of the Calexico Municipal Code regarding junk dealers and recyclers. Thank you.
Junk dealers. Program Sansom and Son. Item 14 is going to be a list of appointments by our newly elected council members, Mr. Romero and Ms. Fernandez, if they have any names to submit.
At this point, I do have people in mind, but not until they get
Okay.
sworn in.
No, you can take your time. You can take your time if you want to ask more.
If you need.
Yeah, and I also would like to see more applicants.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Romero, you have anybody that you want?
I actually do.
Good.
And let me just put them here together. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, well, we'll start off with our Arts Commission, Library Board, and Historical Commission, Mrs. Carmen Durazo.
Excellent.
And for Planning Commission, Michael Christopher Main. For Police Commission, Orlando Espino. For Parks, Recreation, Beautification, and Senior Services Commission, Mr. Jaime Godinez. For Personnel Commission, Salvador Romero. For Business Improvement District, better known as the BID, Christopher Gomez Wong. For Sales Tax Citizen Advisory Committee, Measure H, Felipe Alejandro Lopez Diaz. And for Economic Development and Financial Advisory Commission, Bruno Suarez. most of them have already turned in their application, so they're duly, and some of them haven't. They're duly aware of the ones that have not to come into the city clerk's office and make sure you get all that paperwork done, guys. So I'm just putting it out there. Appreciate it for coming up, and hopefully we can see more local citizens come up and put in more applications, as we would like to see be able to partner up with more residents and be able to, work together and build Calexico.
Okay, so we'll wait for the next one for Ms. Hernandez to come up with the names.
For sure, I know.
Okay.
I have Hildy for arts.
All right, we can wait for that. That's not.
Okay.
Moving on to item number 15.
You're on,
This is to
Chief.
adopt and accept the proposed false alarm fees and approval resolution for the city council to adopt a revised schedule for police department and fire department false alarm fees. Is the chief going to answer this one, or?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Gerardo, Calexico Police Department, here to present a agenda item is we're asking for the false alarm fees for both police and fire to be changed. It'll be an increase of fees. The last time we had an increase of fees was probably like in 2009. But it's not just an increase in fees. What happens is we're losing revenues. We're spending too much time responding to false alarms for the city of Calexico. We did, back in December of 2017, we did sign a contract, or we were given permission to sign a contract to have an alarm billing company that was going to do all the alarm billing for us. But it's not only alarm billing, it's actually an educational forum for the people, residents, also business people in Calexico, to understand why it is not right for us to respond to false alarms, or for them to have false alarms on a daily basis. Last year, or 2017 actually, we responded to like 2,190 alarms for the city of Calexico just on the police side. The fire side also had their own fire side, which probably was like 300-400 alarms that they respond. When it comes to a residential burglary alarm, it takes 2 officers minimum, 15 minutes to 30 minutes to handle that call. If it's a commercial one, if for instance Toys R Us, the alarm would go off, it would take everybody on my force working, 4 officers, because of officer safety issues, the size of the building and size of the building for us to go through and make sure that there's nobody in there. And that would take 45 minutes. So that's just the time that it takes for the officers to respond. One of the things also we were trying to do, by hoping that this educates people, is that police officers and firefighters responding to these false alarms can get into accidents on the way to alarms. So that's one of the liabilities of us responding to alarms which are false. Alarm calls, false alarm robbery hold-up calls at banks takes everybody working. We don't take it lightly, so everybody responds. That also takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. In traffic during Calexico, there's a lot high volume of traffic, and the traffic comes liability for us, just like with the fire department. So we went ahead and we asked a company to come in and do a fee study for us on the alarms. And like I said, we hadn't had a fee study done in quite a while. In order for us to move forward with the alarm billing, it was only feasible for us to do a fee study because our fees are really low. So we weren't gonna collect the money that we spend or that it takes for us to respond to alarms. And there's going to be a second component to this. Like I was told, Mr. Dale, in the future, my goal is to identify through the company, in their software, our billing company, identify all the alarm companies, and then actually have the alarm companies either pay for a business license, a franchise fee or a user fee. At that point, we can revisit this fee and see if maybe we can reduce it or do something else. But it is my strong belief that we should have the alarm companies pay for this service instead of the users. And with that, I would like to present Todd Burton. He's with Wildman, who did the fee study for us. So they're going to bring the projector down. PowerPoint. Fire chief is going to help me. He's going to be my. He's going to use his index finger to press the go button.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Mayor, council, staff, residents. As Chief said, my name is Todd Burton. I work with Woodham Financial Services. And the city retained us to take a comprehensive look at the false alarm fee program. Chief mentioned that, the fees are very outdated, what is in effect. And matter of fact, the police department does not collect any of the revenue whatsoever for false alarm responses. So there's zero recovery for the false alarm responses. Fire department has a bilateral fee. It's one fee that's set across for all responses. It's industry practice to have those fees tiered based on the number of response or the occurrence. So once again, those fees haven't been looked at in quite some time. So we actually took a comprehensive look at the both police and fire. We established a cost-based approach. So we look at what it takes actually to respond to these for both police and fire, and then we kind of back into what would be the proposed new fee for those. So what is a user fee? User fees fund services that provide private benefits to the individuals requesting them with limited no benefit to the community as a whole. This is basically stating that this is not a tax, this is not an assessment. The general public will not be affected by this whatsoever unless they are actually in violation of this so-called penalty or out of compliance, which would be the false alarm. State law requires that individual use of the service must be voluntary. Fees must be reasonably to relate to the service provided. Once again, we took the cost-based approach. We looked at see what exactly does it cost for police and fire to respond to these false alarms, and that way we can look at establishing the fees. False alarm fees will fall under the definition of user fees. So it's a penalty of violation is actually not a user fee such as building permits, etc. So the objective of the false alarm fee is to determine a reasonable full cost of providing the service. As mentioned, we look and see what the resources are for these two departments to respond. Each fee and service is it's calculated individually. Up to 100% of full cost may be recovered, and the city may decide to set lower fees. And this is just based on the nature of the type of programs. Subsidies are usually fairly high. The objectives: develop a rational basis for setting the fees, understand total cost, identify appropriate fee adjustments, maintain consistency with local policy, develop an updatable comprehensive fee list. Everything's electronic. It's easy to go back and explore and update if need be. The data and city staff. So at this time, I'd like to thank police chief, fire chief for their support, their data, their staff. A lot of hours went into this comprehensive study, and we couldn't have done it without them. So thank you, gentlemen. We look at the department budgets, salary, benefits, the information, and the cost, the staffing structure, cost allocation plans. We look at the indirect percentages and the direct overhead percentages, which would go into the layering and the fully burdened hourly rates, which we'll get into later on in the presentation. We look at time estimates to complete the response, activity levels, and we also, once again, reach out to the departments and get their feedback and direction. So here's kind of the summary steps. We look at the data analysis, time estimates, all the way through the cost allocation plan. We do a build cost layer, direct and indirect services, overhead, citywide overhead, and then set the fees. We define what is the full cost. We determine that through the analysis, and then we set costs based on the recovery. So here's an example of the comprehensive of actually what goes into setting these fees, or in this case penalties. We look at the fully burdened hourly rate, and this is predominantly used to calculate these fees. So fully burdened hourly rate is essentially each position's salary and benefits totaled. Then we layer on a percentage of the indirect cost, which is the central services support to these departments throughout the year, as well as the direct percentage overhead, which is the operations, maintenance, etc. And we come up with a fully burdened hourly rate. And then that rate is actually divided by the actual billable hours that each department could have in a calendar year. So here's a quick snapshot of what would be considered the different categories for the police department false alarm fee schedule. We look at residential, non-residential school, residential panic alarm, non-residential hold-up alarm, residential non-permit, non-residential non-permit. So here's a call volume.
I'm sorry, Todd.
Yes, sir.
Why would we have schools there? The school has their own security people, and they're either on site or cruising. Yeah. Why would we be on call for the school since they have their own security guards?
Chief, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, Mr. Pacheco, there's a lot of times that the security guard is off, and it'll be in between the times that they come into work. So they have actually a period of time that they don't have security guards available, and we have to respond to those alarms.
You can see how the total responses, they're fairly low, and that's probably due to having security on site. However, as Chief mentioned, there would be times when it would be a civil duty to respond to those alarms if there was no one on site to do so. So this is very hard to read, and I apologize in advance for that. I didn't know how that was going to come out on the projector. But this is just kind of a snapshot of what the fee schedule would look like, and it is extremely hard. But the first category you see is going to be residential. That's going to be first response, second response, so forth to the fifth and subsequential. Okay, so the first response for that is subsidized 100%, and this is to encourage the residents, business owners, schools, etc., to go on to the website, which Chief alluded to earlier. The billing company is going to provide the education. So this is up to the residents, the business owners, to go educate themselves, to learn techniques and procedures to help avoid the reoccurrence or these false alarms that happen unintentionally.
Who provides the training for this?
So this is coming from the billing department. So if the police responds to a false alarm, then they will provide a link or website where these residents, business owners can go to and actually go through the course. So from my understanding, it's kind of an educational course that they take to get a better idea of how to avoid these. Go ahead, Chief.
Sorry to interject. I see here that there's a charge for 55. Is that something that either the homeowner or the business owner is going to have to pay to take that educational course?
No, so that is going to be if that's not complied with. So it's going to be covered 100% subsidy. Now, if they go on and complete that course and do that educational, I don't know if there's a certificate or some sort of tracking mechanism. However, if they do not complete that, then they would be obligated a penalty at that point. Go ahead, Chief.
Real quick. This company has an educational video that's about 15 minutes long. It's in English and Spanish. And the people can either do it online, or my understanding through the company was that they will send you a DVD to your home and you send it back. So it actually shows you, it gives you a lot of examples on why having a false alarm, what it costs, what are the risks, and why it's important that you either call the alarm company or go back and reset your alarm and not just leave. And also, there's going to be part of the component that's not in this because it's part of the PMAM, that's the name of the company, is that they would have to buy a alarm permit. And by having an alarm permit, that's why you will have where it says resident permit and resident non-permits as also for the business district. And the fees will be different. If you have a permit, they're lower. If you don't have a permit, they're higher.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
So I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit in detail. I know it's really hard to read, so I'll kind of explain it as I go. But when we look at residential, which is the first category, the actual cost to respond for the police department is $283. So currently, they're not collecting anything for that. As mentioned, the first response would be 100% subsidy, assuming that resident does complete that course. As mentioned, if they fail to comply, then they would be at that point, which is a policy decision. However, they would be at that point charged the extra $55 to be in compliance. So the second response, once again, the cost recovery, what it actually costs is the same. It's $283 for every response. However, what we're proposing for that second response is a fee of $113, and that is still showing a 60% subsidy level that the city would provide. And then as each response occurs, the fee goes up, and the subsidy level would go down. So ultimately, if there's a fifth response for that same resident or higher, then it's 100% cost recovery for that response. So then they would actually be obligated to pay that $283, and so forth. So for non-residential, the second response, first response is subsidized 100%. If they do not comply, then they would be obligated to charge $100, pay $100. The second response would be $136. The full cost recovery is $339. So that's what it takes for the police department to respond to a business or a non-residential is $339. And then so forth down to the fifth would be full cost recovery. I won't go through each one, but it is in the report. However, I'll touch on the schools. It costs the police department actually $424 approximately to respond to a false alarm for schools. And that just is the nature of what the school entails, the safety, a little longer to check and clear. The policies and procedures are a little more extensive for schools. So it's $424 for full cost recovery. We're proposing the second response. First is waived, assuming they complete the course as well. Second response would be $170. The fifth and subsequent response would be full cost recovery, and so forth. So we'll look at a quick snapshot of what would be the revenues. And once again, this is another slide that I apologize in advance. It's kind of hard to read. So we didn't have we had the call volume, but we didn't have the breakdown because this is the call categories or the response categories is relatively new to what we're proposing. I think there was originally only 3 categories, but the approximate total billable revenue that would potentially be generated from this, and this is a very conservative approach, would be roughly $80,000. And that's opposed to the city actually having to cover those costs for the police department to respond. So whether or not any money's coming in for these false alarms, the police is still having to do their civic duty to respond, which is costing the city money.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
Roughly 80,000, and that's 80, yes, sir. So that is a very conservative approach, and the reason being is because what we could do based on the data that we had, we know the total call volumes that came in for last year. However, it's hard to break down what was a first response, a second response, a third response. So we just took the second response, which would be the lowest fee or penalty that each category would have to pay, and then we kind of backed into the total amount that came in volume-wise, and so that lands you roughly around 80,000. So now this is not developed to be a revenue driver. This is more or less developed to be educational and help to minimize the occurrences. So the fees are developed around the cost of actually performing the response. So that's what you're looking at, though. As mentioned, in the current situation, there is $0 coming in for any sort of false response. So this would be a great benefit to the current situation. So we'll take a quick look at police, or excuse me, fire. Roughly 380 odd calls coming in. The categories for fire is not as extensive because they do not categorize non-permit and permit. That's just a police-related event because there is no permits required for fire alarms. So we have residential, non-residential, or business, commercial, and then schools. And then you can see the breakdown from there. And here's a snapshot of what would be the projected fees and potential revenues for the fire. And I'll walk through this one as well with you just because this is, once again, it's kind of hard to.
I see you've taken like fire chief or engineer or captain, you've taken their current assignment and you've given it a budget. Why don't we just go with a flat rate for like a firefighter?
Right, so what it is essentially it's taking the fully burdened hourly rate as mentioned. So when you're doing a cost-based or a build-up approach for any sort of user fee or penalty or violation, you're looking at the personnel who's involved. And so what you don't see in the electronic model is there's a whole nother element to this calculation. And in the middle of this, what helps calculate to generate these numbers is personnel. So we can actually select on who's actually involved in responding to these calls, whether it's firefighter 1, engineer, etc. So we can actually select their position, and with selecting their position, it generates what their hourly rate would be. And then we input the time. How much time does that position actually have on that type of response? And then that's what generates the full cost recovery. And then we start setting the proposed rates from there, considering the subsidy amounts. So does that answer your question, Mr. Mayor? So we'll look at the fire. So you have residential, non-residential, and schools. Once again, it's a first response. Can be waived 100% subsidy. There is no education. Currently, the fire department's not using the billing company. Is that correct? So the fire department at that moment would educate as best as possible for those residents, non-residents on, the importance of trying to avoid, falsely occurrence as much as possible. So it would be at that point a discretion for the fire department whether or not they initiate any sort of penalty for that first response. But currently, we're not suggesting a fee for that. That's typically a normally 100% subsidized for the first response, education period, and then so forth. The full cost recovery for the fire department to respond to residential would be $294. So the second response, we're suggesting $150, third response $176, and then the fifth and subsequential would be $294. So you can look at the second response. There's still a 49% subsidy that the city would be providing, and then that decreases down to the fifth and subsequential. And that would be the same for non-res and schools as well. So you can take a quick snapshot of what would be the potential revenues, and this would be based on collection efforts as well as actual occurrences. So right now, roughly there was 24,000 billed out for false alarms. I'm not sure what the success of the collection percentage was for that, but then based on the new proposed fees, there'd be roughly 34, 35 onwards. So there would definitely be an increase in revenues for the fire department as well. Some policy considerations: general standard, individuals or groups who receive private benefits from this service, in this case would be a penalty for the response. We would suggest 100% of that suggested fee for that second, third, fourth, fifth, so on. We also recommend that the city would include an annual inflator factor that would allow council to adopt by resolution annually to adjust these fees based on the CPI or some other inflator factor. So that's just assuring that when the costs for each departments go up, at least the fees can kind of keep up with that without having to do a comprehensive study every year. And that concludes the presentation, and I can field any questions if need be.
The main thing being we want to educate first.
Correct. Once again, false alarm fees or any sort of penalty or violation is not developed to be any sort of revenue driver. But however, if there is cost related for the city, there should be some sort of recovery efforts in order to minimize what the city's having to pay out. And that's what the goal is. And as the police chief, fire chief have both mentioned, it's going to be, they'll do everything in their part to help minimize and reduce some of the occurrences.
Thank you, Todd.
Is there already something in place, like say for instance, that keeps a record of a first response, a second response, a third response, so that maybe when it comes time for them to pay for that penalty, there's a structure set up and there's no confusion?
So the software that PMAM has will integrate with our computer automated dispatch.
What was that acronym again?
Which one?
For the software?
Well, I don't have this. It's the company's called PMAM.
Oh, PMAM.
And it's their software. And I brought that to council, I think, back in December of 2017.
Okay.
If you need it, Mr. Romero, I'll look for my report. But that company has a software that integrates with our CAD, our Spillman CAD. And Spillman is the name of the company that does our computer automated dispatch. What they'll do is that every time we enter the code, the alarm code, it will go into the system and it will get all the information, put it in there, and they'll know what that address, if it's the first, second, third, or fourth call. We will have access contacting them too. Let's say, for instance, the house is sold, gets a new owner. Now the new owner is a different person, so we'll be able to go out there and do that. At the same time, if the people do have concerns that they were wrongfully billed, company will take care of it. Also, through our hearing officer that the city has, they can come and try to contest it. If the hearing officer finds that they should waive the fee, then we contact PMAM and tell them, hey, per our hearing officer, municipal code sections, that fee is waived. I just caution us to get away from doing that unless it's an emergency and it's something happened. We are not going to bill for real alarms. If it's an actual alarm, you won't get billed. These are for false alarms only.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we did take in mind when Fire Chief and I spoke with Todd was that we wanted to take a very, very conservative fees where they were tailored to our region, to our economic basis, not to other places. Because I looked at the program that PMAM has, and what they charge in Costa Mesa and Oakland is 4 to 5 times as much as what we're going to charge.
Right.
So we tailored it to our area here.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Campos, since it's a public hearing, do we open it up for discussion, or? Yes.
Correct.
If anybody
It'll
would
be
like to address this on this issue?
Correct.
Council Arms for the PD and the fire department? Okay.
If there are no comments, we'll close the public hearing now.
Very good. Now we'll take a vote on this now, Mr. Campos.
Correct. If there's any questions or
Any
comments,
questions
deliberation.
from the board? Council?
More than anything, a comment. I think, this is something that'll highly benefit everybody in general, just because of the lack of staff that we have right now and our police officers, and both for firefighters. And I think this will give more of a accountability to both business owners and residents in Calexico. And because from what I've seen is sometimes, unfortunately, calls, it takes a long time for police officers to get to certain places because of calls like these. And I think false alarms play a key role in this. So I think this will definitely help out keeping accountable not just residents but businesses as well. And it'll definitely help out both the police and our fire department. So thank you guys for the presentation. Appreciate the gentleman from Wilden. And that's it.
Okay. Is there, we're going to call for the question for accepting this resolution.
Motion to accept the resolution?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed.
Aye.
That's all the items we have on our agenda. Mr. Figueroa, anything for the good of the order? Mr. Dale, anything for the good of the order? All right. Anything for the,
You have enough to do right now.
Future agenda items, I just think we really gotta get the process going for appointing the fifth council member, and maybe have a couple of, maybe put them in future agenda, having discussions on see where county stands to adopt a couple of the new state laws that just went into effect. Example, SB 946, which is street vending practices, and AB 626. That'll allow people to sell directly public food from their homes. And I think that would definitely help, economically speaking, not just the city, but different vendors and hopefully future business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs in that industry. And also have a couple of talks about adopting something for AB 494, which is like the ADUs, the granny flats. I know it's come up in the past, and we've never really come to a conclusion. And just to put it there so, we can keep rebuilding Calexico, have more places for people to rent, or, help out senior citizens with, those cots. So, and if maybe even put it up as well, if they've mentioned it before, former council member Escobar had mentioned Adopt the Park, and the rebuilding of our neighborhood watch program. I think that's very important right now, especially with the lack of staff that we have in our police department. So, putting it out there.
No, absolutely, and that's a point well taken, Councilman Romero. With regards, just a brief update on AB 626, Mr. Dale and I had the opportunity to meet with the Imperial County Public Health Department. Based on how the law is written, we anticipate that the county is going to take an action on 626
County, right?
very shortly.
Was that county, Mr. Figueroa?
I'm sorry?
County, you said?
Yes.
Okay,
And right after that happens, we should bring it to your attention.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Mr. Dale, I had a comment, some residents were complaining about the burning fields and that it's in the air, things come into their neighborhoods and they're breathing that. Is there a way that we can have the county come and see who's doing what and if they're doing it the wrong way?
County air quality control,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, I don't know.
That's the,
Okay. And you did say you were going to look into the rates for,
that's on our agenda. We need to put a request for proposal out on that one to get a fee study, because we do have some rates that some are exorbitant, some are too low.
We're prepping the RFP, Mayor.
okay, thank you. Good night.